Maurice had been radio silent for what felt like forever, while the entire internet was practically setting itself on fire with theories, accusations, and enough speculations to fuel a whole Netflix series. People were refreshing his page every 5 minutes, hoping for something, anything that would give them clarity on the whole messy situation. And then, just when everyone thought he'd keep dodging the conversation forever, he dropped a bomb so quietly that it almost felt like a whisper that turned into a sonic boom. No dramatic video, no lengthy Instagram essay with 18 slides, no tearful interview. Just one sentence that made the entire Nollywood gossip ecosystem collectively lose its mind and hit the replay button about 1,000 times trying to make sure they read it right. The sentence itself was deceptively simple. We are not compatible. We are in different worlds. 11 words. That's it. But those 11 words carry the weight of 1,000 unsaid conversations, unresolved arguments, and feelings that have been bubbling under the surface for months. It was the kind of statement that felt both incredibly mature and devastatingly final all at once. No anger, no bitterness, no finger pointing, just a cold, clear boundary drawn in the sand that left absolutely no room for misinterpretation. And the internet? Oh, the internet went absolutely feral. Comment sections exploded. Group chats lit up. Voice notes started flying around faster than bad news in the Nigerian family WhatsApp group. People were screenshots, sharing, quoting, analyzing tone, dissecting word choice, like they were preparing for a literature exam they never signed up for. Now, here's where it gets really spicy. Maurice never mentioned any names, not one. He could have been talking about his ex, his situationship, his co-star, his childhood crush, literally anyone. But the second those words hit the timeline, fans immediately appointed themselves as investigators and decided, without what was purpose, beaming. Maybe it was layered that meant different things for different people. The speculation became its own entertainment. Sonia's name started trending within minutes. Pearl's mentions went through the roof. And suddenly what should have been Maurice's personal moment of clarity became a full-blown social media trial where everyone had an opinion, a theory, and zero actual facts to back any of it up. What made the whole thing even more fascinating was how calculated it felt. Maurice didn't stumble into this statement drunk, on emotion, or caught in a moment of weakness. This wasn't a 3 a.m. post he'd regret by breakfast. No, this felt deliberate, measured, like he'd been sitting on those words for weeks, turning them over in his mind, waiting for exactly the right moment to release them into the world. There was no shouting, no messy explanations, no attempt to justify himself or win public sympathy. Just a clean surgical cut that said everything he needed to say without saying too much. And honestly, that restraint made it hit even harder. Because when someone stays calm while drawing a line, you know they've already processed their pain privately and made peace with their decision long before you ever heard about it. But let's talk about those two words that really set everything ablaze. Different words. Oh my goodness, the fields generated could fill a library. People dissected it from every possible angle, like scholars analyzing ancient texts. Was he talking about mindset? Was it about lifestyle differences? Maybe she's all about glitz and glamour while he's more low-key. They bet you the stotatis dibinitor. Then cast at this, then the rules, possess you. Yes, this are stars stand up street. 10 stars, there is, sales, then do stars who on the same, bonus is to their pools. Others accused him of being condescending, of positioning himself as somehow over whoever he was referencing. The phrase became this perfect as recharge. Test everyone saw exactly what they wanted to see, based on their own biases and experiences. And then there were the fans. Oh, the fans. Both Sonia's supporters and Pearl's loyalists felt like they'd been personally attacked, which is wild when you think about it because Maurice technically didn't name either woman, but that didn't matter. Sonia's camp immediately went defensive, interpreting different words as Maurice looking down on her, suggesting she wasn't sophisticated enough or didn't fit into whatever elevated space he imagined himself occupying. They flooded timelines with receipts of her accomplishments, her growth, her work ethic, all to prove she wasn't lesser than anyone. Meanwhile, Pearl's fans were in their own corner, having a complete meltdown, convinced Maurice was publicly distancing himself from her after all that Cape Town drama that still hadn't fully died down. They felt betrayed, like he'd used the chaos for publicity and then tossed her aside with one cold sentence. Both sides were hurting, both sides were angry, and Maurice's comment section became an absolute war zone where nobody was winning, but everyone was winning. Sonia's reaction, or rather, her complete lack of one, became its own storyline. She didn't post anything cryptic, no sad song lyrics, no vague quotes about knowing your worth or her silence is strength, nothing. She kept posting her regular content like Maurice's statement didn't exist, like she was living in a completely separate reality where none of this drama touched her. And somehow, that silence was more powerful than any clapback could have been. Because when you refuse to engage, people start projecting. They fill in the blanks themselves. Some saw her silence as dignity and strength, proof she was above the mess. Others interpreted it as hurt so deep she couldn't even formulate words. The truth? Nobody knows except Sonia. But that didn't stop thousands of people from writing entire narratives about her inner emotional state based on absolutely nothing but their own imaginations. Pearl, on the other hand, became an unwilling participant in the world's most intense game of social media interpretation. Every single thing she posted after Maurice's statement was put under a microscope and analyzed like it contained hidden codes that would crack the whole mystery wide open. Posted a photo where she's smiling. That's definitely shade. She's showing Maurice she's unbothered and thriving without him. Shared a motivational quote about moving forward. Oh, that's a subtle response for sure. Telling the world she's learning and growing from this experience. Play the song on her story. Forget about it. Fans dissected every single lyric looking for hidden meanings, parallels, and secret messages directed at Maurice. Her comment section turned into a detective agency where amateur sleuths were convinced they could decode her every move and translate it into some grand statement about where she stood in this whole messy triangle that may or may not have actually existed outside of fan speculation. Here's the thing about certain phrases in pop culture. Once they hit a certain frequency, they become permanent fixtures in the collective memory, ready to be resurrected whenever convenient. Different worlds is now one of those phrases. It's entered the Nollywood gossip lexicon forever. Years from now, even if Maurice, Sonia, and Pearl have all moved on, gotten married, had completely separate successful careers, and never thought about this moment again, fans will still bring it up. Anytime any of their names trend for any reason, a new movie, an award, a random throwback photo, someone in the comments will type, "But remember when Maurice said they were from different worlds?" Followed by a skull emoji or a teacup. One sentence delivered calmly on what was probably just another regular day for Maurice, and it permanently altered how people perceive these three individuals and their relationships to each other. What's really wild when you step back and look at the bigger picture is how much power we've given to interpretation and speculation. Maurice made one personal statement about compatibility, something literally millions of people experience in their own relationships every single day. But because it's public, because fans feel ownership over his narrative, and because we live in an era where everyone thinks they deserve access to every intimate detail of a celebrity's life, that simple statement became a cultural moment. It sparked debates, think pieces, conspiracy theories, and enough drama to fuel gossip blogs for months. And the craziest part, we still don't actually know who he was talking about, what the full context was, or whether any of our elaborate theories even come close to the truth. We've built an entire skyscraper of assumptions on a foundation of 11 words and our own imaginations. So what does this whole circus teach us about celebrity culture and our relationship to it? Maybe it's that we become so hungry for content, for drama, for insider access that will create entire storylines from scraps and convince ourselves they are gospel truth. Maybe it's that sometimes the simplest statements leave the most room for interpretation. And that ambiguity is actually more powerful than detailed explanations because it lets everyone project their own experiences and biases onto the situation. Or maybe it's just that we're all a little bit messy, a little bit nosy, and deeply invested in other people's love lives because it's way more entertaining than dealing with the complications in our own. Whatever the lesson is, one thing's for certain, Maurice Sam gave us a masterclass in how to say everything and nothing all at once. And we're still trying to figure out exactly what he meant. If this deep dive into Maurice's 11-word earthquake got you thinking about the power of words, the chaos of fan culture, or just how wild it is that we can build entire narratives from basically nothing, then do me a favor. Don't keep this conversation to yourself. Share this with someone who's been following this drama or anyone who's ever watched their own simple statement get twisted into something unrecognizable. Drop a comment after you said something straightforward and people read way too much into it. Because honestly, we've all been there. And it's weirdly comforting to know we're not alone in being misunderstood. And if you're here for more unfiltered breakdowns of Nollywood's messiest moments, the drama nobody else is brave enough to analyze this, honestly, hit that follow button because honey, we're just getting warmed up and there's so much more tea to spill.